or we, not the royal we, myself and several other people, recently published this book, A Comprehensive Guide to Bhagavad-gita with Literal Translation. Happens in the best of sampradayas. So, Prabhupada once wrote me a letter in which he said, read my books and explain them in your own words. And my own words, my own words tend to be hopefully faithful and devotional, but also Western and rational. So, in service to Prabhupada, I tried to present Bhagavad-gita. First of all, there's a 150-page, what you could call systematic theology or systematic philosophy, which I try to explain categorically what is in the Gita, using the Gita's own language in the sense that, because for many years, probably most of my life, I've relished reading the Gita, especially in Sanskrit, and having learned from Prabhupada what it actually means, I've always enjoyed very much reading the Gita in Sanskrit. And there are many amazing connections. If you know Sanskrit, you see, like, the same word appears in different places, and these connections don't always appear in translation. So, my goal was to take the reader as deeply as possible within the Sanskrit text. The translation is very literal. Prabhupada did the hard part. He brought Krishna. And so I'm building on that. Translation is very literal. The idea was that if you read the translation, you know really exactly what's in the Sanskrit, as far as possible. That's literally, according to the literal meanings of the Sanskrit words, that's actually what it says in Sanskrit. And then the systematic philosophy or theology is based entirely on the Sanskrit text. I think I quote one other shastra in the entire book. It's the Bhagavatam, but basically it's just showing the internal connections in the Sanskrit text and how Krishna is defining terms and making points and so on. So, I thought I'd give you an example of that. The point I wanted to show is that Krishna is teaching that the individual soul is subordinate to God, and that the individual soul is, with a conditioned soul, is not God, and God is not a conditioned soul. And this comes out actually just by looking at the literal meanings of the Sanskrit words. And so I thought I'd read this now and to give you the idea. Of course, the real reader is here, Damodar, but... So, terms reserved for souls. Meaning individual souls. Bhuta, Jiva, Dehi. Bhuta. Krishna often refers to souls in bodies as Bhuta, plural Bhutani, which I translate as being in the sense of a living being. Although Krishna is certainly a being, the Gita never refers to him as Bhuta, and we shall see why. The word Bhuta comes from the verbal root bhu, which means to be, but also often means to become. In this sense, Bhuta means one who has come to be, i.e., one who has become. The Gita makes clear early on, and for all the things I'm saying, I'm actually quoting verses. I'm not going to read all the numbers, but at this point, virtually almost every sentence is a paraphrase of a Gita verse, which I'm putting together, so it's actually Krishna speaking. Gita makes clear early on that both God and individual souls have always existed. For example, that's 2:12. Thus, what comes to be is not soul itself, but rather soul's ephemeral persona, produced when soul enters body. Krishna directly states that a Bhuta arises when matter and spirit combine. And that's 7:4 through 8. One may literally translate 8:19 through 20 as follows: this very group, those who have come to be, after repeatedly becoming, are helplessly dissolved. There is, however, another superior state that does not perish when all who have become are perishing. Since Krishna time and again states that souls never perish, clearly what perishes here is the composite identity formed when soul enters body. Thus our identity as woman, man, dog, bird, or tree arises when a living conscious soul animates an otherwise dead material body, creating thereby a living temporary creature, a bhuta. This composite persona is literally dissolved when soul leaves body. Yet since Krishna does not take on a material body, he is not a bhuta. His identity as Krishna does not come to be like our worldly identities. Krishna has always been Krishna, 2:12, and will forever be Krishna, the Supreme Divine Person. Bound to a material body, a bhuta must follow nature, 3:13. The bhuta seeks freedom from nature, 13:35. Krishna controls nature, 9:10. He is not a bhuta. The Gita never states that his body or his identity comes to be. The Gita describes Krishna's relation to bhutas, to souls like us, whose temporary identity does not souls, bhutas, whose temporary identity does come to be. Krishna is a kind-hearted friend to every bhuta, 5:29. The eternal seed of every bhuta, 7:10. He knows every bhuta, past, present, and future, 7:26. He is the great Lord of bhutas, 9:11. And their origin, 9:13. He is equal to every bhuta, 9:29, 13:28. And as the master causes all bhutas to be, 10:15. He is the beginning, middle, and end of bhutas, 10:20, and their preserver, 13:17. He sustains bhutas by his power, 15:13, for he is their Lord, 18:61. And at eon's end, the bhuta enters Krishna's own nature, 9:7. So again, those are all verses where Krishna talks about his relationship with bhutas. The conclusion: as souls, as persons, as parts of God, we are one with him. Yet we are also different. In this world, we do business as bhutas. Krishna does not. The Gita employs other important terms to indicate souls, but not God. Jiva. The word jiva, life, living, usually indicates, quote, the personal or living soul as distinguished from the universal soul. And that's from the most important Sanskrit English dictionary by Monier Williams. Similarly, the term jivatman, living soul, indicates, quote, the living or personal or individual soul as distinct from the paramatman, the supreme soul. Again, that's from the dictionary. The Gita twice calls the soul jiva bhuta, living being, at 7.5 and 15.7, but never uses this term for God. The Gita also uses for individual souls, but never for God, several terms relating to our bodies. Now I discuss that. Dehan, Shariran, Dehavrit, Dehavat. Bhagavad-gita's most common word for body is Deha. And 11 times, which I list, the Gita calls the soul Dehin, one who has a body, or the embodied. Thus soul is distinct from body. Another word for body is Sharira, and the soul is called Sharirin, at 2:18, one who has a body, or the embodied. The Gita also describes the soul as Dehabrit, one who bears a body. There's three verses that use that term. And Dehavat, one who has a body, once. Krishna twice uses the word Kalevara, also meaning body, to describe how the soul gives up a material body at death. That's at 8.5 and 6. In the Gita, all these Sanskrit terms, Dehin, Shariran, Dehabrit, Dehavat, and Kalevara, clearly indicate a soul as distinct from its material body. Yet the Gita uses none of these terms, nor any similar terms, to describe Krishna. The Gita gives no indication that Krishna, the Supreme Soul, and he's called the Supreme Soul at 6, 7, 13, 23, 15, 17, no indication that Krishna is different from his body. This is entirely consistent with our analysis of Bhuta. At the start, Krishna tells us that we are eternal souls in temporary bodies. 3 verses. Our body is matter, apara prakriti, the Lord's inferior energy, but we souls are para prakriti, the Lord's superior living energy. The Gita never describes Krishna's body as material, temporary, or limited. Rather, his form is ananta, infinite. That's at 11:16 and 11:38. Krishna describes soul's transmigration from one body to another at 2:13. Souls give up old bodies as one gives up old worn-out clothes, 2:22. However, spiritual knowledge travels with the soul from one body to another. Thus, spiritual practitioners regain spiritual knowledge, quote, from a past body, unquote. That's 6:43. Many verses describe the soul giving up or letting go of the body. However, none of this language is applied to Krishna. Krishna and Arjuna both appeared in this world many times. The Lord recalls all these births, but Arjuna does not. 4:5. That is because Krishna's birth and activities are divine. 4:9. Due to karma, ordinary souls accept and give up a physical body. But karma laws cannot affect Krishna. 4:14. They cannot force him to accept a material body, for he rules nature with all its laws. That's 9:10. Krishna often states that he is within the soul's body, specifically in the heart. And that's, I give a sample of such verses, 8:2, 8:22, 13:23, 13:3, 13:16, 13:17, 13:28, 15:14, 15:15, 16:18, 18:61. All verses where Krishna explains that he's within the heart of his soul. But Krishna never says that he is within his own body. There's no hint of Krishna giving up his body or of his body taking birth or dying as our bodies do. A final point here. In the Gita, Krishna often speaks of bondage and freedom with various noun and verb forms of the root much. Krishna teaches, like mukti, moksha, Krishna teaches us of the soul's liberation from birth and death. And that's at 2:51, 4:9, 4:14, and many other verses I list, where Krishna talks about the soul being free from death. Freed from karma, 2:39, 3:31. You get the idea. I'm giving all the verses. Freed from evil. And there are a number of verses where Krishna talks about the soul being freed from evil. Freed from anger, lust, and fear. I give several. From duality, from attachment, or simply from bondage. And while one can easily compile a similar list of words indicating bondage, the Gita nowhere hints that Krishna is ever bound by or freed from anything. In the Gita, he is God, personally. Clearly, the Gita teaches that God does not have a material body as we do. He is never bound or freed. Yet Krishna appeared in this world as a human or human-like person. People saw Krishna, embraced him, spoke with him. How are we to understand Krishna's body? Here, too, the Gita comes to our rescue. Now, this next section is called Krishna's original form, or rupa. We saw that the Gita calls the soul Dehi, Shariri, Dehabrit, and Dehavat, Sanskrit terms indicating one who is somehow separate or different from one's body. None of these Sanskrit terms describe Krishna. The Gita often describes how souls give up their bodies and take another. None of this applies to Krishna. Nothing in the Gita suggests that Krishna is separate or different from his body. Krishna often states that he is within the body of embodied souls, within their hearts, but Krishna never states that he is within his own body. Unlike the soul's birth under the stringent laws of nature, Krishna rules nature and takes divine birth by his own power. And there's reference for that. In the Gita, Krishna appears to Arjuna in 3 different forms. His normal, quote, sublime human-like form, unquote, 1150. His form with 4 hands holding symbolic objects, 1146, and his cosmic form, 11:9 through 45. Krishna also tells Arjuna to meditate on the supreme divine person as one who possesses an inconceivable form, achintya rupa, colored like the sun, beyond darkness, 8:9. If Krishna's form is achintya, inconceivable, how then are we to understand it? The term achintya, inconceivable, does not mean unknowable. Thus Krishna teaches that one can know many things about the soul, including the fact that souls are achintya, inconceivable. That's at 225. In short, achintya indicates that which we cannot know by our own unaided powers, but which we can know by hearing from Krishna, or from Tattvadarshis, seers of truth. Thus we can know something of Krishna's body if we hear from Krishna. After all, only Krishna truly knows Krishna. And that's at 10:15. Bhagavad-gita directly mentions Krishna's body 23 times. And 21 times uses the word rupa, a term the Gita never uses for material bodies. Rupa indicates form, shape, figure, and may further mean handsome form, loveliness, grace, beauty, and splendor. That's also from the dictionary. Bhagavad-gita celebrated chapter 11 reveals Krishna's cosmic form by which he pervades, contains, and consumes the universe. The Gita says much more about the cosmic form than it does about the others, and many readers believe this wondrous body to be Krishna's highest form. But textual evidence suggests otherwise. Let us therefore first consider Krishna's spectacular cosmic form, what it means to Arjuna, and its relation to Krishna's other forms, including his regular form as Krishna. Arjuna pointedly asked to see Krishna's cosmic form. Quote, O Supreme Lord, I want to see your lordly form, 11:3. To convey the impact of the original Sanskrit, Ishwara, I use the cognate terms Lord and Lordly. Arjuna addresses Krishna as Parama Ishwara, Supreme Lord, and then asks to see the Aishwara, lordly form. Of course, Aishwara, lordly, is derived from Ishwara, Lord. A question arises. If Krishna is Lord, and Arjuna has been talking to and seeing Krishna for some time, why then ask to see the Lord's lordly form as if it were different from the form of Krishna? Is Krishna's human-like form not the true form of God? After seeing what he asked for, Krishna's cosmic form, which overawes and overwhelms him, as it does many readers, Arjuna bows to Krishna, quote, from in front, from behind, and from all sides, 1140, and says, thinking you a friend, I imposed myself, not knowing this glory of yours, 1141. Here we glimpse an aspect of Krishna that for millennia has charmed and mystified. The all-powerful, all-knowing God plays like a human being, forming such intimate friendships with his devotees that they forget he is God. Thus Arjuna goes on to say, just to tease, I insulted you, Achyuta, in sporting, resting, sitting, and eating, alone or even in company, unquote. Again, these are very literal translations. Arjuna's vision of Krishna's cosmic form jolts him out of confident complacency. Recall Arjuna's opening request. O Supreme Lord, I want to see your lordly form, 11.3. Here Arjuna trusts in his intimate friendship with Krishna. Consider the somewhat common example of famous, rich, powerful people who choose to live where neighbors treat them simply as neighbors, not knowing or caring about the celebrity's celebrity. We know that famous, rich, powerful people have trouble finding true friends who love them for who they are, not for what they possess. Imagine then the situation of the supreme celebrity, God. Thus Krishna tells Arjuna, I speak this spiritual science to you, for you are my devoted friend. 4.3. We know from Mahabharata that Arjuna and his 4 brothers devoted their lives to Krishna with great love, and Krishna lived with them as if he were a human prince. Such unassuming behavior on God's part can sometimes lead even the devoted to take the Lord for granted. Arjuna recognizes this after seeing the Lord's overwhelming cosmic form and apologizes. He begs to again see the form of Krishna that he knows and loves. After all, the cosmic form, for all its unbearable majesty, is hardly lovable. Krishna complies, and Arjuna sees Krishna with new and chastened eyes. Why did Arjuna ask to see the cosmic form at all? Arjuna tells Krishna, quote, "I want to see you, O Supreme Lord, as you described yourself in your lordly form," unquote. In other words, although Krishna had mentioned many times that he is God who rules all, Arjuna did not actually see these powers in his divine but modest friend. Essentially, Arjuna tells Krishna, "You say you are God, show me." Krishna replies, "Behold my hundreds and thousands of forms," 11.5. "Behold the entire universe here in one place, in my body," 11.7. But Arjuna cannot see this cosmic revelation with his ordinary eyes, so Krishna gives him divine vision, 11.8. Arjuna then beholds Krishna's cosmic form, which shines like 1,000 suns rising at once in the sky, 11.12. Arjuna sees the entire universe, with all its separate forms and divisions, within the body of the God of gods, 11.13. Astonished, hair standing up, he bows to God, folds his hands, and tells the Lord what he sees. But then he speaks of something new and dangerous. "I see your mouth of blazing fire, burning the cosmos with splendor. Beholding this, your wondrous, fierce form, the three worlds tremble." 11:19-20. Arjuna even sees frightened gods and great sages entering this flaring cosmic form, praying for their well-being. 11:21. The worlds tremble in fear. 11:23. This vision shakes Arjuna to the core of his being, and he finds no peace. 11:24. Significantly, at this terrifying juncture, Arjuna, for the first time in the Gita, addresses the Lord not as Krishna, but rather with the more formal name Vishnu. 11:24. Arjuna then tells that the cosmic form is manifesting dreadful, gaping fangs. Completely disoriented, Arjuna finds no shelter and begs for the Lord's mercy. And anyway, I give all the verse numbers. The battle warriors fly into the cosmic form's devouring mouths, like rivers rushing to the sea or moths rushing into fire. The cosmic form starts to devour all the worlds. Again, calling the Lord Vishnu, Arjuna no longer knows who or what he is seeing. He cries out, "Who are you, so fierce of form?" He then bows to Krishna for the first time in Bhagavad-gita. And even in the Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, because Krishna and Arjuna were the same age, they would just embrace. Arjuna would not bow to him. The Lord replies, "Time I am, destroyer of worlds, expanded to withdraw the worlds." Krishna, for it is Krishna, then exhorts Arjuna to arise, attain glory, and defeat the enemies. For as Krishna declares, "I have already slain the enemies, you just be the instrument." Hands folded, shaking, repeatedly bowing, voice choked, terrified, Arjuna offers prayers to God. In these prayers he acknowledges that he took Krishna for granted and prays, "O God, like father to son, friend to friend, lover to lover, be lenient to me." Arjuna now prays to see not the Lord's cosmic, but rather his personal form. On his way back to stable, peaceful consciousness, he first asks to see Krishna's renowned and majestic four-armed form as Vishnu. After assuring Arjuna that only he has seen such extraordinary forms of the Lord, Krishna again reveals his sublime human-like form as Arjuna's friend. Seeing this form, Arjuna says, "Now I am restored, rational, natural." Krishna assures Arjuna that only by exclusive devotion and not by scriptural study, austerity, charity, or ritual offering can one see Krishna as he really is. And here the chapter ends. We can draw several critical conclusions from this chapter. First, this chapter powerfully reaffirms monotheism. As Krishna begins to reveal his cosmic form, he tells Arjuna to behold the gods within him. And when Arjuna receives the divine vision needed to see this form, his first statement is that he sees the gods inside God's cosmic body, including even Brahma, the supreme creator God. When the cosmic vision turns fearful, Arjuna states that the three worlds, including the highest realm of the gods, tremble in fear. Hosts of terrified gods and great sages, quote, enter you, praying for their own well-being. These astonished gods all gaze upon Krishna's cosmic form. Arjuna declares that God surpasses even Brahma, the first maker. 1137. Careful scrutiny of this chapter suggests that Krishna's cosmic form is not his full revelation of himself, but rather the opposite, a very partial view of God. Apart from terror and confusion, we have no real relationship with the cosmic form. It doesn't really do anything except display infinite splendor and devour the cosmos. Krishna states that he is a kind-hearted friend to all beings, 529, that he reciprocates his devotees' love, 929, that to know him as the Supreme Person is to know everything, 1519, that he personally uplifts those devoted to him, 12.2. This cosmic form offers nothing of this intimacy to God's offers nothing of this intimacy. God's love for us all, his eagerness to help us, is grimly absent in the cosmic form. In fact, when Arjuna directly asks who the cosmic form is, he replies, Krishna, time I am destroyer of worlds. By comparison, Krishna states in the previous chapter, I am death that takes away everything, and I am the coming forth of all that will be. The cosmic form wields only half of this tandem of powers. Arjuna declares, I am the source of all. From me all proceeds. The cosmic form contains and consumes the cosmos, but does not appear to create it. Krishna inspires Arjuna's love and devotion. The cosmic form terrifies the whole universe, as well as Arjuna, until it literally scares him out of his wits. Only the return of Krishna's original human-like form restores Arjuna to his own true nature, reviving his reason. Thus souls, represented by Arjuna, realize themselves fully in relation to Krishna, not the cosmic form. The soul is part of Krishna and achieves self-realization in relation to Krishna. Part of Krishna is 15.7, and achieves self-realization in relation to Krishna. This points to Krishna as God's full manifestation, not the brief show of God's omnipotence as all-devouring, implacable time. Indeed, throughout the Mahabharata, Arjuna often yearns to see Krishna, but apart from his one request in Bhagavad-gita, he shows no particular interest in seeing the cosmic form. Nonetheless, the cosmic form does serve an essential purpose. It prevents Arjuna and us from taking Krishna for granted. Though this epiphany seems to have escaped many Gita commentators.